Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene, where, empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world. My name is Phyllis O'Neill. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm your worship associate this morning. As you enter the sanctuary and at any point during the service, you may write your joys and sorrows in our book back in this corner, light a candle, or place a stone in the water, and let that be your prayer for today. If you're joining from home, you can write prayers of joys and sorrows into the Zoom chat, which will be open until the beginning of the sermon. And during the week, you can go to the Pastoral Care portal on our website and to let our ministers know what you're going through. We gather in worship to find meaning and to live more deeply. Worship creates connections within, among, and beyond us, calling us to our better selves, calling us to live with wisdom and compassion. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your image of the holy, we're glad you're here. If you're visiting with us today, we'd love to hear from you and invite you to fill out the visitor form as you feel called. If you're online, the link will be dropped into the chat now. You can also see Izzy Kreka, who is our congregational administrator. She'll be in the office this morning. We light the chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, in celebration of Easter Sunday, with thanks for the renewal of life. Glory be to the earth and to the skies. Glory be to the sun and the rain. Glory be to all that breathe and swim and grow. Glory be to our holy flame, which calls us together as one strong body and one strong spirit. We light another candle as our call for peace in the world, for every person and creature suffering because of war, because of hatred, because of greed. We send our love and compassion. And now, let us say that together the words of our mission, which affirm our shared purpose. Empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world.
Good Easter morning, everyone. Joyful Pesach, Ramadan Mubarak. It's quite rare that these three Abrahamic faiths come together and intersect on the same weekend. I'm the Reverend Jen Youngsun. I use the pronouns she and her, and I'm so happy to see all of you here today. I know that each week when we gather, more people come to me and say, today's the first day I've been back in 2 years. So especially to all of you who've been Zooming through this pandemic, we're very happy to see your faces. We are indeed a people of faith. Faith in the inherent goodness of creation, faith in the enduring power of love, faith in God. Many of you come to your faith without any particular attachment to Jesus. You come to your faith in goodness, in the power of love, in God, through nature, the arts, through connection with other living beings, human and otherwise. These are all very powerful spiritual paths. And I say to you today what the Reverend Howard Thurman once said, you who seek goodness, you who seek love, you who seek God, must one day, along the way, meet Jesus. Come, let us tell the impossible story of one person who showed us how powerful love can be. Come, Let us worship together. Our lives are full of stories, aren't they? Bedtime stories and family stories, fairy tales and tall tales. A long, long time ago, people began telling stories to explain things like, where does the sun go at night? Or why is it so cold in winter? And what strange and wonderful force is it that brings back the spring? Stories can help us to live better lives, learn how to be better people, and they can keep us company through difficult and sad times. This weekend, the Easter story is being told all over the world. There are so many versions of this story, several in the Christian faith. There's an Islamic version in a book called the Quran. And there are even some Disney versions. And all of those came from even older stories told, for example, in ancient Rome, the festival of Attis, the god of vegetation, who died and then was resurrected on the third day. And from the Greek myth of Persephone, who rises from the underworld to bring back the spring. And then there's this one that Mel will tell us, and it's called Eostre and the Easter Bunny, written by Sonia Jensen. The Rabbi Abraham Heschel reminds us that prayer cannot bring water to a parched land. Prayer cannot mend a broken bridge, nor build up a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul. It can mend a broken heart and strengthen and rebuild a weakened will. And so in that spirit, I invite us together as a community to weave a prayer together. And so let us name out loud, into the air, first, that which brings us joy, and that which we rejoice in today, and that which we give thanks for. Today we give thanks for hope, family, flowers, spring. And now let's name those that we're holding in our hearts, people we want to extend our care and compassion to. And I'll start by naming longtime UUCE member Sally LeBaron, who passed away last week. She had been part of the women's choir under the direction of Tom Sears, and she was a friend to many. And so we send our love to her family and friends. Who are others that you're holding in your hearts today? You can also name yourself. Whatever it is that you're struggling with. And finally, our prayers for the world. There's so much in this world that saddens us and breaks our hearts. For the ongoing, unthinkable violence that's happening in Ukraine. We open our hearts. We pledge not to turn away, not to forget, not to turn off the news, because they can't turn off what's going on with them. And so to all of the people in the world and to all of the creatures, great and small, we send our care and our compassion. We are ever grateful for the power of love that binds us each to all. May we continue to nurture and grow that power in ourselves, in this community, and in our wider world. Amen.
Let me tell you a story that Howard Thurman once told about his first trip to India in 1935. Howard Thurman was a Christian mystic who was a spiritual advisor to Martin Luther King. On that visit 80 years ago, he met a man who said to him, "I am Hindu. I do not understand. Here you are in my country, standing deep within the Christian faith. You live in a Christian nation in which you are segregated, lynched, and burned." I read a clipping telling about a Christian church in which the regular Sunday service was interrupted so that many could join a mob against one of your fellows. When he had been caught and done to death, they came back to resume their worship of their Christian God. I do not wish to seem rude, sir, but I think you are a traitor of all of the darker people of the earth. I am wondering what you, an intelligent man, can say in defense of Christianity. This is from Jesus and the Disinherited by Howard Thurman. The conversation that followed lasted more than 5 hours. The essence of Howard Thurman's response was that there is a difference between the religion about Jesus and the religion of Jesus. There is a difference between worshiping Jesus as a God and taking seriously what he took seriously.
When Jesus was a child, his parents told him stories about the creation of the world. Now, his family was Jewish or Hebrew, so they told him stories from the first book of the Hebrew Bible, which in English is called Genesis. And these stories in Genesis came from even older stories told by people called the Sumerians. They taught Jesus that God planted a garden somewhere in the east, full of every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. 4 rivers flowed into this garden of paradise, including 2 that today we call the Tigris and the Euphrates. Jesus first understood paradise as an actual, literal place on earth, because this is what it says in Genesis, which starts out, "In the beginning." I knew you knew that. "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and all things, and all living things." But then something happened, didn't it? And the people said, "Let us plow up these grasslands and fell the trees. We need more fields. Let's harvest more." And so it was done. And the people said, "Let's cut off the mountaintops to reach what are the riches underneath." And so it was done. And the people said, "Let's put down our nets deep into the ocean to catch as many fish as we can to feed the multitude." And so it was done. And the people said, "Let's build higher and further to house the growing multitudes." And so it was done. And the people said, "Let us pave all the roads. Let's go faster and faster to get where we want to go." And so it was done. In the cool of the evening, God came to walk in the garden, and God said, "Where are my passenger pigeons? Where are my whales and my fishes? Where are my wild cats and foxes?" And then God wept. As Jesus grew up and learned more and more from the wise elders of his tradition, people like Isaac and Amos, Jesus started to understand that paradise was not an actual place to be found, but a way of being with people and the earth and all its creations so that we could all live together in peace. Justice for the oppressed peoples and justice for the land go hand in hand. The Jewish elders taught that. Isaiah, for example, said, "Let the oppressed go free. Bring the homeless poor to your house. Offer food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted. Then your light shall rise in the dawn, and you shall be like the watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail." Isaiah was offering a wonderful piece of wisdom, one that Jesus carried with him and shared with everyone that he met. The message being that you can be like a watered garden, even if the land around you is parched and dry.
Jesus' followers were excited to experience a new vision of paradise. It was a paradise experienced in the welcome table that drew everyone into one whole circle of love. But they quickly realized that the welcome table was not welcomed by everyone. Jesus and his community lived during a time that was mean and brutal. Their lives were controlled by the Roman Empire. People were not free to live the lives they wanted to live. The Romans required even the poorest people to pay high taxes, and they forced people to worship the emperor as their god. Anyone who argued against it was punished. Jesus was one of those people who was punished for trying to turn things around. He was always trying to turn things upside down. He taught that the last shall be first and the poor were blessed. While the empire was telling people that happiness comes with power and money and possessions, Jesus was telling them to give it all away, to take up a spiritually awakening life in this world. This was nothing less than a confrontation between two competing views of paradise. Jesus kept doing things that angered even his own people. You see, Jesus was a holy man, a rabbi, and he did things that rabbis are not supposed to do. He sat at the table and shared meals with tax collectors, prostitutes, and other people who were seen as unworthy. He knew that soon he would be arrested. He knew that soon he would be put to death for daring to open his heart and welcome everyone into his love. No exceptions, no enemies list. On the day that has become known as Good Friday, Jesus was put on the cross to die a painful death. But he was not alone. Two others had also been captured and sentenced to die on the cross. So here they are, 3 people facing death. This is a time that reveals much about a person's attitude toward life. One of the people facing death with anger and bitterness, and he takes it out on Jesus by joining the crowd to mock him That one had never really understood what Jesus had been preaching. They just heard rumors of miracles, of producing fishes and loaves from thin air, raising people from the dead, instant healing of the blind and lame. And so that person mocks Jesus and says, "Hey, you, if you're so powerful, why don't you just blink your eyes and cut us down from here? Or at least, why don't you save yourself? You don't really have superpowers, do you? You're just a fake." The person on the other side of Jesus faces his death with an awakened spirit. He wants to spend his final moments learning what he can from Jesus. He doesn't expect Jesus to have any magical powers. He asks one simple thing: remember me. And isn't that what any of us wants when we move away, when we come to die? Just remember me.
It is written that after Jesus died, his friends placed his body in a cave that had a large stone to cover the opening. Now, they had planned to come back in a few days to prepare him for a proper burial, but when they did, the body was gone. We're not sure exactly what happened that morning that Christians now celebrate as Resurrection Sunday or Easter Sunday. But maybe you can have a sense of what it might have felt like for his friends and family. Here's Mary approaching the tomb, feeling like, surely this is the end of everything that I have ever loved. This is the end of my life the way I knew and understood it. This is the end of everything I ever wanted. Like her, I know that many of you have lost so much in these recent years. There's so much grief around us. Not only have you lost the ones you love, you've also lost the life that you expected. You had plans, you had things in place. Things were supposed to go this way, but they went that way instead. And I know that you're also feeling the deep sorrows of the world, the senseless deaths caused by the war against the Ukrainians, the growing violence in our cities, the loss of compassion and care for one another, the decline of just simple human decency, the loss of habitable lands, clean water, clean air. And so I think we can understand what it might have been like to approach the tomb heavy with grief and disappointment and confusion and rage. Expecting only death, a never-ending darkness, then we're shocked to find the tomb empty. No, this is not a place of endings. No, this is not the place of death. Even when it feels like everything is falling apart and crumbling beneath our feet, the empty tomb on Easter Sunday reminds us that new life is ever sprouting somewhere, even if we can't see it. A tomb is no place to stay. My colleague, the Reverend Dick Gilbert, wrote that. A tomb is no place to stay, be it a cave in Judea or the dark cavern of the spirit. a tomb is no place to stay. When fresh grass rolls away the stone of winter cold, and valiant flowers burst their way to warmth and light, a tomb is no place to stay. After his death, people continued to feel Jesus' presence among them. Even though he was physically gone, his spiritual presence and the love that they all shared was so strong that a few friends swore that they saw him on the street. A few said, "We even shared a meal together." I think some of you may have had this experience when you have lost a loved one. You swear you saw them, and you could swear that you felt them. They were here. They are here with you. What they gave us in life stays with us even after they have died. Empowered by Jesus' teaching of radical, inclusive love, his friends expanded their circles by feeding thousands of hungry people every day. They raised money to buy people out of slavery, even when their own lives were in danger. Those earlier followers of Jesus worshiped in buildings whose walls were covered in paintings of Jesus as shepherd, Jesus as gardener, Jesus as earth tender. Not the gruesome images hanging from a cross that would come 1,000 years later when the church and the empire joined forces. That early community filled their senses with images of pools of water, fresh rivers, hills of grass, flowers, deer, doves, sheep. And those are the images that help them to remember that paradise is here on earth. Now, in the presence of people, in the presence of love and compassion, in the presence of goodness and truth. To them, justice, radical inclusion, compassion, goodness, all of that was wrapped up in the bounty of this earth. And their vision of paradise and their memories of Jesus were with them in the here and now. And so in this season of awakening, I hope that you will find the strength and the courage to roll away the stone from your own spirits, from your own hearts, remembering always that this is not something that you do by yourself. We do this in community. This spiritual community mourns together. We celebrate together. We seek the light together, and we uncover paradise together in the here and in the now. May it be ever so. Amen. And we'll say together the words of our chalice extinguishing. Here it is. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now, dear friends, nourished by the dark of winter, may you rise to push away the stones from your own spirits. Invite the light to awaken new possibilities in yourselves and in this world. Go in peace. Go in love.